Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I am your host, Corey Barrier, and I am here with Dario. Is it Cucci, right?
Yeah, that's Cucci. That's correct.
That is so funny. I love that. Love that last name.
Thank
What's up,
you.
brother? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So,
Fantastic.
dude, this is going to be a killer conversation. We're both salespeople, and I love bringing salespeople onto my show. And I don't usually actually do the show live, but I thought, what the hell? I really enjoy talking about sales, and I think this is going to be a great conversation. So, tell
Absolutely.
everybody a little bit about yourself, Dario.
Well, look, the short story is when I was about the age of 25, I moved from Switzerland to Australia because I wanted to explore life and I wanted to explore more. At the time, I thought I wanted to become an actor, and there would be more opportunities in Australia than in Switzerland. But eventually, after about, how can I say it, after about 5 years, I ended up working in the fitness industry as a personal trainer for 5 years. And ultimately what I ended up doing, I quit personal training because I felt like it was too superficial. It didn't really challenge me that much, to be quite honest, and I felt bored by it, even though I had apprentices and everything. Sales, I did really well in person. It was never a matter of not making enough sales. In fact, I actually broke the record during my first 2 weeks at Fitness First in Australia, selling the trial programs and pocketing the money that I made from it. When I started my business, and within 2 months, I had weekly 40 hours of personal training with clients. So it wasn't that, it was just that I felt there is more to life than that. And as a result, I educated myself, got certified in neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnosis, all that great stuff in regards to subconscious mind as behavior. And I became sort of like a cross between a life and a business coach during that time. So I ended up working with entrepreneurs and actors to shift their mindset so they can reach their goals easier and have it in general easier in life, letting go of trauma and limitations. And I got offered to work with an agency that promoted Tony Robbins. I'm sure you're familiar with Tony Robbins.
Very familiar.
He is a international world-renowned coach. People know him. And during my time, I was based on commission only, making sales for the agency. And it was literally cold calling. Literally, that was it. Because when I started the agency in Sydney, even the people that downloaded his book, The Giant Within and stuff like that, they might have read it, but they have not heard from the agency for over half a year. And as you know, over time, people lose trust and eventually they forget about you. And then when you call them up again, you need to start all over again. And so at first, I really struggled during the first 2 weeks making sales, even though I worked really hard. And one day after 2 weeks, I got up in the morning and I decided either I make a sale today or I'm going to quit that job because I needed to pay rent. I had about $300 left on my bank account. Didn't even know how to pay the rent the next day. Went back to the office and with that mindset, did a follow-up call with a person that was interested in Date with Destiny. And during that time, I literally changed my approach. Instead of pitching, I asked more qualifying questions, kept putting her on hold. When she had a question, went back to my supervisor, said, Sarah, if she can make Date with Destiny, can she reschedule? And Sarah would go, yes, absolutely, go back and answer that sort of question. And then eventually I asked, so are you now ready to enroll in Date with Destiny? And she said, yes. And that was my first sale. I was like, yeah. I made $1,000 commission, which allowed me to pay the $900 of the rent that I needed to pay the next day. And that's how my career in sales started, really, when it comes to the self-development industry. Long story short, over the following 10 years, I worked with 3 different self-development, and financial education events businesses that were small to medium sizes. And eventually I made yearly about an additional sales revenue for them, selling over the phone, their programs, mentoring, coaching programs, and replicated that and went up the career ladder. Eventually I had a job where it was a salary plus commission, and eventually I became like a sales trainer and acquisition trainer for the company. Before, something, I had an unexpected health scare where I thought I had a stroke. And
you thought you had a stroke?
I thought I had a stroke. I was like sitting during lunch, having lunch, wasn't very happy at the time, even though I made really good money. And then I ended up going to my manager and said, well, I think I had a stroke because part of my face was literally paralyzed. It wouldn't move.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know what it was. And obviously, people that have a stroke also have that sort of like numb face.
That's right.
So I ended up in Melbourne Hospital after that. And during those 3 hours, while they were made a MRI scan of my brain and things like that, I was like literally lying there on hospital bed thinking, what if I die right now? Because I was in Australia by myself without my family or anybody. So then I asked myself, well, if I were to die right now, did I live my life with purpose? And the answer was no. And when I asked my subconscious mind, so what is my purpose? Within seconds, I saw myself being surrounded by people that come towards me, asking for advice, basically people watching me on stage, reading my books, things like that will manifest in order for me to inspire and educate other people. It wasn't Tony Robbins, it wasn't Chris Howard, it wasn't somebody else, it was me. And so that's ultimately what I figured out is my purpose in life, to inspire and educate people with what I know, my experiences. And that's how my journey started to ultimately change my life and take a new approach. And even though the doctor came back and said, good news, you don't have a stroke, you got Bell's palsy, which is like just paralyzing of the face. The doctors don't know what Bell's palsy really is, except that they know that the cells being inflamed and it takes time to recover. Sometimes you recover the movement fully and sometimes you don't. But other than that, I really don't know anything about it. So through acupuncture and hypnosis and all that other stuff, I helped myself to heal. And I moved back to Switzerland and started my life fresh.
I got a question for you. So, and this is first of all, your story is so interesting because our lives are very similar, and in a sense that I was a trainer as well. I had a commercial training business. I started in training. I started actually doing training because I could sell it. And then I just became, like you said, I was literally, I think I missed 2 months out of the 5 years I was with that company. And then I went on to start my own business. Then as that progressed on, I went and got my NLP certification, my hypnosis certification, my timeline, all those things. I haven't really done too much. I mean, I guess I use NLP in my daily, I do it unconsciously, most likely, right? I don't think about it. But I'll tell you, that's fascinating. Here's what I want to ask you. Now, you've mentioned Tony Robbins several times. That story is also very similar to mine. I know you've done the priming exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So tell me do you think that played a part in how you healed?
No, I think the reason I healed was because I had that internal belief that I can heal. I just had. I didn't care what doctors say or told me because I felt like doctors don't know anything about it anyway. And I looked at one of the books of what's her name, Louise Hay. You know Louise Hay?
Louise Howes, maybe?
Louise Hay?
No.
Yeah. So she wrote a book, Heal Your Body, something. And then basically in that book, you see all the diseases that you create from your subconscious mind, and what is the cause of it. And so I look at the index in the description, what spells palsy stand for. And that made me realize, hey, for years I was unhappy. I felt trapped in a position that I wasn't happy because of the way that the management literally led the team, and because of the way they let down their customers, and I still sold for them. And so as a result, I was unhappy and I felt blocked. I couldn't express myself. So what does Bell's palsy do? You're literally getting a mask. On one side, you can move your face, the other side, you can't. So it's literally like Jekyll and Hyde, like presenting. And so I realized the reason that actually occurred was because I denied myself to be truthful to myself. And that's the reason why I created that disease. And also stress can cause it and other things. But I think the first time that was the reason why, because I denied myself to live on purpose.
I believe you. You know what? It's very interesting that you bring that up, because just as of recently, and I'm just going to be completely vulnerable with you for a second, but just as recently, I've uncovered this about myself. Like, there's things that go on in my life that I just don't talk about, right? And I don't purposely not talk about it. I just don't really think people care about these things. For example, it was about 3 weeks ago, I did a post that, and I just dumped everything that was in my brain out, just so everybody could kind of see how the marbles roll around in my head. And it was pretty raw, and it was pretty, I really opened myself up for whatever. Like, I just didn't give a shit. And I'll tell you the reason is because I'm just tired of, I'm tired of holding myself back. I'm tired of, and I know it's me against me. It's not me against anybody else. I'm the only reason I'm no further in life than I am. But guess I'm also the reason that I'm as far along in life. And there's lots of times that we don't recognize the things that we're doing right. We look at the things we're doing wrong. And if we just focus on the things that we're doing right, we probably will do more right things. Or if you want to focus on the wrong things, you just probably keep doing more wrong things.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I moved back to Switzerland, started fresh, and ultimately started my own business, because I want to enable business owners in the service industry to not have to go that path of feeling like they can't be themselves and making sales and serving their customers, but they have to be someone that they're not. And as a result, ultimately, it will affect their health and their finances as well. I mean, it's sort of like a domino effect. On one hand, you might make a lot of sales, but then it affects your health. Other way around, when it affects your health, it will affect your finances. So it needs to be in balance ultimately. You're
absolutely right. In fact, that's so. Again, everything that you're saying, it's almost like I scripted this out for you. It literally feels that way because I'm getting ready to launch my the trade schools, which is I work with tradespeople. I work with service-based industries, and the reason I work with service-based industries in the construction industry is because, you know, this construction people get shit on just like salespeople, right? People talk shit about salespeople. They say, well, salespeople are slimy or they're shady or whatever. And don't get me wrong, are there some people out there like that? Of course. But I don't believe the majority of people are like that. And I don't believe tradesmen should be treated poorly. You know, I just did a video. I was doing my funnel videos. And one of the things that I point out in there is people talk shit about plumbers, but guess what? Everybody has to have a place to shit. Everybody. And somebody has to sell that toilet. So guess what? You got to have both those people in order to every day do what you got to do. And I mean, that seems really simple, but it's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that the reason that sales, I mean, has a bad name to it is because even there are some experts out there that I'm not a fan of, which ultimately teach the hard sales technique.
Yeah.
of mind manipulating kind of things. Now, we all manipulate to some extent people, sometimes consciously and sometimes on a subconscious level, without even knowing that we are doing it throughout the behavior. The thing about it, though, and always believe, sales initiate when service-related sales. I'm not talking about products, but when it comes to a service like coaching, personal training, therapist, consulting, or even mentoring, is ultimately about transforming or making it an initiation to transform. Because the sales is the part where we say to the customer, are you ready to be committed? And the person goes, yes, I am. And the commitment starts with them saying, here is my credit card. Let's do it. I appreciate the value you bring to me, and therefore I pay for it. And that is normal. And then in return, we share our expertise and how they can improve and that sort of thing. And when they apply themselves correctly, they make a transformation or get the value from it. If they don't, then nothing happens. So obviously, then they're just literally paid for something they didn't use. And it's just as if you were to buy a computer and you never switch it on. If you just buy a computer but leave it in the back, hoping that the computer would open itself and switch on and write all the entire beautiful stories, and you create a book and everything, even though it's still in the box, that's not going to happen. You still need to switch it on. You still need to make sure that you actually write the content on the computer. And the same goes for your own mindset and the behavior in regards to customer service and sales. I mean, from your own experience, if someone teaches you something and you go, oh, that's great, I love it, but then you keep on doing the same thing, even though you have a different way of doing it, then obviously you're not going to get the benefit from it. Whereas when you do apply yourself and you see the change, then you go, well, that was really great value, even though I had to pay X amount for it. And that's the thing that the sales in general that do the hard sell, the scarcity sell, don't tell the people. Because what they normally do in sales is, not recently did a post about it, you make a preassumptive assumption in regards to where the client or the customer is. You sell them, you make them aware of their pain, and then you sell them the solution with the vision to where they want to go. And you don't ask specific questions relating to their own experience. You're just asking enough questions for them to go, I need this. The problem with that sales technique is that it's too superficial. So then there is no transformation within the customer itself in that initial phone call or conversation to take accountability. And you need that, because otherwise there is no internal drive and motivation for the customer to go, I paid $1,000 or $10,000, even though I might be stretched financially. So, but you know what? That's not really urgent. I got other stuff that I need to focus on. Whereas if it's a priority, then it's a totally different story. And the commitment is different. So if you are literally getting them to be aware of what did you do or did you do in the past that brought you here, and they are admit to it, when you make a sale through because of that, and also highlighting the benefit, getting them excited, even when they go through challenges, they will not regret having made that purchase.
Right. Let's go back for a second really quick. So you said something important. You said, well, you can teach somebody how to do something, teach people how to sell, but if they don't do it, if they have the information, but they don't implement it, they don't execute on it, it's pointless. So it sounds, you obviously work with service-based businesses. How do you get them? How do you make sure? So I'll just share with you how I make sure. So the way I make sure that my program and that my consulting and when I'm working with different companies, the way I make sure that it's successful is I make these guys role play. And I don't care how uncomfortable it is. I do not care. And I don't care if we have to sit there for 4 hours. I do care. I'm not going to sit there for 4 hours. The point is, by coming in as a third party, I don't have any emotional ties to the people in the business. So it's really hard lots of times for the owner to say, hey guys, you need to do this thing when he hasn't been saying, hey guys, you need to do this thing. It doesn't work, right? It's like me showing up and saying, hey, I got all these great plans, but and I expect for you to be on board with them before I tell you what the plans are. Anyway, you get the point. So I make sure I role play with these guys, and I make sure they role play with each other, and I make sure that they do that stuff as I throughout the week before they meet with me again. The second way I have them do it is the phone. Do videos. I don't care if you don't have to send them off. You don't have to do anything with them. Pick your phone up and just shoot video. Just shoot video. Just shoot video. And I promise you, you're going to get better. Do the sales pitch in the phone. You don't have to do anything with it, but I promise you, it's going to help you. So what do you do to make sure these guys, get what you're giving them? Make sure that they're implementing it.
I get them. Well, there's several things. I mean, I do fortnightly one-on-one coaching calls with them, literally online. So when we do the coaching calls, they're recorded. So I give them a copy of it so they can always watch it back and learn from reflecting on it and practice what I taught them. The other thing that I do is I give them my WhatsApp number literally and go, if there's any questions while you're practicing or things that you want me to listen to or anything, let me know and then I'll give you feedback on it. And because I find it's the best way to, outside of the coaching calls, to support them when they do it. Because the thing about practicing anything is, yes, you can practice and become better at it. The thing about it, though, is, and this is the distinction where sometimes we have selected memory. So we take certain things that we like, and then we make it our own, and then we practice it on our own, and we go, why doesn't it work? He told me this works. Yeah, all right. So let's just say you told them to tap into the person's vision, build up the goal, and share with them how they would work with the customer and all of that. But during the conversation, they never once addressed an objection that could come up. So now they are practicing all of that, and at the end, they get all those objections, and they're really struggling overcoming that because they never planted the seed and resolved it as the conversation went on. So it was really hard for them. And even when they make videos, they might get it, but they still don't get it because they're making a mistake in the way that they do it. And so this is ultimately where the distinction is when they send you a text and they do like a role play and they are playing it out and you listen to it and you as the coach, you picked it up. Then you can correct that and they can practice it better. And that's the thing that I feel is the most valuable thing to do, because that way they're not getting in a habit of practicing it incorrectly. Because we do have selective memory, and there are certain things that will just like literally, I'm sure you told them, I'm sure you practiced it, but they forget about it. This is also the reason why I say I've seen one guy on Facebook literally selling coaching with the promise you only need one coaching session and the problem is solved.
Oh boy.
And that is
pretty powerful.
Sorry?
I said that's pretty powerful offer right there.
Yeah, it's just well, when I see it, I just like it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
It's it's like saying you only need to work on yourself once in your entire lifetime and that's it, and everything has been solved. That's not the case, because the thing about this is we are human beings and we have habits, and those habits that we created not on one day, we created over time. So what makes you think that you can actually solve a problem in one session that only lasts for, say, 60 to 90 minutes, and then you never have to, revisit it again and look at how can you create a different habit? Because, even research has shown that, in order for us to create a habit, we need to practice it at least 21 times. Meaning, if you need to practice something 21 times and you are the coach that helps the other person to do that, that means you would have to literally see them every day for 21 days straight. Right. That will not happen. So the next best thing is once a week. The next best thing is once every fortnight. And so obviously, if it's either once a week or once a fortnight, it will be at least 6 to 12 months before they have created that habit on one thing alone. And you know just as much as I do, people are complex, and there's never just one thing that they need to improve on. There are always multiple things, and they actually get discovered as you work with the person for longer.
You're absolutely right. And I'll tell you, it's interesting you say that, because I get, for the longest time, I would get caught up in my head about that, because it's really hard to explain to people. Yeah, we're going to come in as probably going to come in to fix whatever you think the sales problem is. But the reality is there's always more issues. You can't just fix the sales team if the operations is still messed up. You can't fix the sales team if the marketing isn't right. It doesn't make sense. You have to do it all. And I think sometimes it's confusing, and it's hard to understand maybe even how one person could do all this stuff, but it's just experience. I mean, when you go and work with these different companies over time, you figure out what they need, and you figure out what the pain points are. You already know going into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know how to solve them. And so that's why I get paid what I get paid, because you get to fast track all that stuff, right? In 6 months, you're going to double your revenue. If you work with me, that's going to happen. And I say that because I've done that over and over.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's ultimately, and you become, because I mean, I don't know how many years you've been doing this, but I've been in the industry and doing sales and self-development and reprogramming the mindset and all of that for over 22 years now. So if you add the time that I did personal training on top of it and retail sales and things like that, you could say easily 27 years.
Sure.
Even though I don't look like it, you know what I mean? So I think that ultimately it's all about, for the person or the companies that come to you, to know that they are paying not the service in itself as much as the experience, and what the experience that you and I bring to the table will do for them. I mean, you can get like somebody from business school that talks about sales and that just, had done their MBA and things like that, but they get the technical aspect, they get, the structure of it, but they don't have the adaptability that you and I have because of our experience. And it might take that one person 2 to 3 years to get there, just to figure out that one thing that company needs. And in the meantime, that company has to go through trial and error with that one person they hired as an employee, because that person has that box mindset, as I call it. Whereas we have a flexible mindset. So we can literally, it doesn't take us half a year to figure things out. It takes us maybe 1, 2, 3 sessions and we got it. And so when we figure that out, then we get straight to the point. Like one person literally texted me today about a prospect that she resold her therapy to. And when she described what her answer was, it was like literally for me, okay, I got it. And I gave her feedback on it. And that was just from looking at the text and what the prospect actually wrote to her when she shared it with me. Another person that has not had experience would have said, you know what, have you tried this and have you tried that? Without looking in between the lines what needs to happen. And I mean, when you are selling your services and you have customers that are just looking for you to fix the problem, and they got the mindset, it's okay for me to fuck up, so I have somebody to fix it. They will only come to fix the problem that's the symptom, not the cause.
Right.
And that person needs to change the mindset. They need to retrain their customers in a way that the customer goes, I'm sick and tired of treating the symptom. I want to treat the cause. And treating the cause takes longer than the symptom. But once you treat the cause, you prevent it from reoccurring. And that's the ultimate thing that we want people to have. So they don't need to recreate the same problem over and over again, because otherwise you always just get hired short term for a fix and then they let you go. You don't want that, because that's not a good business model.
Well, I think sometimes business owners think, well, I could pay Corey $50,000 for this problem, to fix this problem, or I could hire somebody and keep them all year. Well, the problem with that mindset is it's wrong, right? Because the person that you're going to hire all year is not going to bring the expertise that I bring. In fact, nobody on this planet is going to bring the expertise that I bring, period. Nobody. And so and I understand their decision. I understand why they think that way, because I used to think that way. When I had my medical practice, I tried to do everything myself, and guess what? It failed. The practice failed miserably. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it, but I was the reason, because I was trying to save money everywhere possible, and I tried to do everything. You can't do that. It's stupid. I lost a ton of money when I could have just hired somebody for a fraction of the amount of money that we lost, because I didn't hire somebody. I also didn't really know. I just didn't know. I didn't know there was somebody you could call. This was several years ago, and the coaching world, the consulting world, I had not really been introduced to in the business sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't have considered it anyway, because I didn't want to spend the money.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing where I say people need to shift their mindset and beliefs around that. If you think you will save money, or actually don't, because one of the things that I observe with small companies and business owners, even like solopreneurs, is, let's say they have the mindset, we need new customers. So it's always get new customers. So then they get the new customer, and on the back end, they have hardly any structure in regards to relationship management. So the communication on the back end is non-existent. The only time that they're actually getting in touch with the customer is if there is an open bill, a complaint, or if they got a new program to sell. Other than that, they don't do anything. And this is where ultimately all the money is, in getting your existing customers to become your loyal fan. If you are actually, in a correct way, build the relationship. And this is what I actually am very passionate about and do with my clients, to ultimately show them how can you not only keep your customers in the long run, but get them to become a fan of yours and what it is that you do, so they keep on spending money with you and they're referring your clients to you. So you don't have to do advertising and marketing campaigns and all of that costs you tons of time and lots of money. And it takes 3 times as long to get a new customer, if not longer, than to sell to an existing customer that already knows that you do great work. So that's why right. make it so difficult for yourself and keep on doing that? But believe it or not, 90% of the companies out there do that. They spend heaps of money on ads and marketing just to get new customers. And the existing customers, guess what? They go to the competition. Why? Right. Because they're not looked after. That's right. Maybe once a year, the customer service makes a phone call or survey. Go, how happy are you with the customer service? The customer goes, well, I'm not with you anymore.
That's right.
It's so I'll tell you, thing,
Yeah, my wife and I were just talking about this last night. Actually, I told her. So we were both members of this cryotherapy place. It's a pain. it's a pain in my ass to go. It's across town. Like I just don't have time, right? I just don't have the time. So I canceled my membership. And so yesterday, I think, or the day before, was the last day of the membership, I think. My wife kept her membership. And so I got a text yesterday. And the text was like, oh, hey, happy, Flag Day or some shit. I don't even know what it was. And I'm like, so I asked her, I said, hey, did you get a text from the cryo place today about some Flag Day or some shit? And she was like, nope. I'm like, mm-hmm. I said, case in point right here. This is a great lesson for you to learn and for me to tell you. This is how people lose customers, because they don't nurture the people that they have, and they always try to go after the people that new people, right? They reach out to me once I leave. Well, I've already left. You missed the opportunity, right? I'm out the door. B-backs don't bring greenbacks, right? So anyway.
Exactly. But I mean, this is it's just mind-boggling to me, to be quite honest, because I mean, even research has shown that 70% of existing customers are much more likely to buy again from you than from than a new customer, which I think the percentage is about 5 to 20% or 25%, but it takes way longer to get that new customer on board. And this is the problem that we have today. And the problem is, even with marketing, there's so many options, so many things that one can do. It's just crazy. It used to be very simple. And these days, it's not simple anymore. It's just complicated. And there's so many ways that you can do marketing. And it costs more time and more money than it used to be. So these days, the big guns, they have the money, they have the millions to spend on it. The small people, like the individuals or the small businesses, they don't have that money and they struggle with it. But do you think they will change? No, they don't. They keep on imitating what the corporations do and wonder, why can't I keep my customers for longer? And that's the problem that we have these days when it comes to sales. Sales also has a bad reputation because what do normal people do? They badger you till you sign up, and they do everything until you sign up. Once you sign up, they'll leave you alone. That's another reason why sales has a bad name. One of the reasons, when I worked with 21st Century Education back in Australia, the last company I worked with in Australia before I moved back to Switzerland, one of the things that I did is, even once I made the sale, I kept on calling those people, seeing how they're doing, like once or twice a month, I would just call up and go, hey, how's it going? Are you getting on with the program well? And just have a relationship with them. And sometimes it was a 1-minute phone call. Other times it was a 20-minute phone call, because they told me that they moved, they changed, they had this and that. And as a result, I was able to go, hey, did you know this is something that you could actually do to make it easier for yourself when it comes to learning about investing in properties? And as a result, I would end up selling the property mentorship and opportunity to them, where they didn't have it before. But what was it planned? No, it wasn't. It was just throughout the conversation, discovery, what is it that they need? And that's the thing that ultimately needs to happen these days, because the selling, you can say, I made bad customer service experience, I made bad sales experience, I made bad marketing experience. It has nothing to do with the job. It has nothing to do with the action that we do. It has all to do with the mindset and the behavior, and ultimately the leadership that the person or the company apply for themselves when it comes to serving their customers. And if they don't have the right mindset, they are not skilled enough with their communication, they don't have systems in place, and the leadership is lacking, you can bet your life on that it will trickle down, and what the management isn't doing well, the employees will not do well either, because they're a reflection of the management.
Exactly. If it's a leadership problem, then you have to start with the leadership. And guess what? it's really hard to say, hey, you need to hand me 50 grand so I can tell you how bad you suck. But guess what? But you have to do that in a tactful way. You don't have to tell people they suck. I was joking about that, but at the end of the day, you are finding out, like, if you know the employees are not doing what they're supposed to do, it's 9 times out of 10, it's a leadership problem. And that's just a fact. I mean, it is what it is, and it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, but it is what it is. Guess what? If you're a plumber and you just started your plumbing company, you're not supposed to know how to do all this stuff. You're not supposed to know how to run a business. You're not supposed to know how to do marketing. You're supposed to know how to plumb. So therefore, you have to take your experience and go forward with that. But you got to hire somebody else to do these things that you don't know how to do, or ultimately you're going to fail. And so we do got to wrap up. I want you to tell everybody about your book, right? Don't you tell everybody the name of your book? Did you have a book?
I got 2 books. One is called Turning Customers into Profit, and the other one is called Crossroads to Clarity. Turning Customers into Profit is all about what we talked about it today: how to retain your customers, how to increase sales, how to be of better service. And what kind of things that you can do in your own business in order for you to do that. And Crossroads to Clarity is about my journey to discover who I am, what made me who I am today, what the struggles that I went through with my Bell's palsy and things like that, and what people can learn from it in order to get more clarity around their own path, where they want to go with their own purpose in life. And people are always, that are listening to this podcast, they're always welcome to visit my website, dariocucci.net, and reach out to me or connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn, and have a conversation with me and get to know me and see if there's anything that I can do to help them in their business.
Absolutely. Well, listen, my man, thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation. I love talking to salespeople because we always have a great conversation. So I really appreciate you, brother, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Corey. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure.